In the heart of Atlanta stands a place where imagination takes center stage and puppets come to life to inspire, educate, and connect. The Center for Puppetry Arts is more than a museum or a theater. It's a cultural landmark that has left a lasting impression for almost 50 years. This is the story of how puppets, in the hands of passionate people, are making a difference.
Center for Puppetry Arts is super unique because in a city that's filled with these really wonderful arts and cultural organizations, the Center for Puppetry Arts is the only one of its kind. My name is Beth Chavo, and I'm the Executive Director here at the Center for Puppetry Arts, and I have been in this role for about 5 years. I came during the height of the pandemic. I took on this role. The Center for Puppetry Arts was started in 1978, and it was really the brainchild of our founder, Vince Anthony. Vince was a marionette puppeteer himself, and puppeteering is a very vagabond experience, a very traveling nomadic type of experience as an entertainer. And he felt it would be really powerful and meaningful to have one place where puppeteers could go to share their work, but then also learn from each other through educational workshops and all of that, and then have a place where you could store this incredible history about puppetry, whether it's puppetry in the United States or from around the world in different cultures. And so that was really the idea, and that was the inspiration of bringing the Center for Puppetry Arts here. Puppetry arts is the use of puppets for storytelling and for entertainment. Puppets are really any object that is built or manipulated by a human to tell a story, and it can be abstract, it can be very real. Puppets can be human-like or animal-like, monster-like, or they can be incredibly abstract. They can be the wind, they can be a feeling and an emotion, and so storytelling really kind of gets exponentially stronger with the use of puppetry. Vince Anthony was a member of the Vagabond Marionettes puppet troupe. He, in his own right, was a very popular marionette puppeteer, and so that was really that kind of start of that inspiration of him thinking about, you know, how do we find this place and create this place. So if you come to the Center for Puppetry Arts, you're going to come up our ramp in the front of our building and enter in, and you're going to have a lot of choices because on any given day we may have a show going on in one of our 2 theaters. Those shows are either created and built and produced by us, or they can be guest artists that come in from around the world to share their puppet shows, which is really exciting because you get to be introduced to different types of puppetry that way. Our museum has 2 permanent galleries, the Jim Henson Gallery and the Global Collection Gallery, and then we have a rotating special exhibit gallery. We rotate that 4 times a year, and it really tries to highlight either a type of puppetry or an artist. Sometimes we'll do deep dives on artists and share their portfolio of work. So anytime you come, you're going to experience something slightly different because we're always trying to rotate in and out those forms of entertainment. We also, on our education floor, have a creative puppet workshop, and that can either be self-guided, where you go in and there's all the instructions and materials there, or it can be part of a workshop that's taught by a workshop leader that walks you through that process. And we connect our creative puppet workshop to the show that is showing in the theater at the time. We try to incorporate that so that the children can experience the continuation of that storytelling. And then as they create that puppet, they're really getting that hands-on feeling of being an artist themselves, because we believe everyone is an artist here. And then after they build their puppet, then there's a place, a little stage for them to go perform their puppet, because it's just art until you perform it, and then it becomes a puppet. And so we want every child who comes here to be able to experience that type of fully immersive experience of puppetry. Spring Street Elementary School is our primary building here, and it's over 100 years old, and it served as a school up through the mid-50s. And then the bigger building, but we also have the green building, we call the green building, which is the museum expansion, which came to us in 2015. And so we have really these two buildings that are kind of meshed together, and they're very different architectural styles, but they support each other and complement each other. Spring Street Elementary School is a very important school in Atlanta. Generations of children attended, and some that still come to visit and see their old classrooms that still exist on our second floor. We also are one of the first integrated schools in the city of Atlanta, which is important to us as part of our whole importance of inclusion and how puppetry really just includes a place for everyone to be able to tell their story.
Education is considered really important at the center, seeing as every aspect of what we do here is educational. From our shows, which tie into the curriculum and teach students all different types of lessons, and then we're so lucky to have an entire floor here dedicated to just teaching students and adults that come in here all about the art. My name is Sarah Bermenko, and I am the director of the education department as well as the digital programming department. So my role consists of managing all the education programs that we have here at the center, which includes in-house programming as well as outreach. And then I also manage our whole side, the other side of our outreach, which is virtual field trips and virtual programming. Vince really thought that education was important to incorporate into part of the whole center. So he started out doing puppet shows, and where, there's puppet theaters all around the world, but he really wanted this to be a place where not only people got a chance to experience puppetry, but they also got a chance to learn about the history of puppetry or how puppets are used around the world. So when he incorporated the museum aspect, it makes sense to add the education component as well.
Education is one of our three pillars. You have theater performances where people get to see, experience puppetry through entertainment. You have the museum where people get to learn about the history of puppetry arts. And education is what brings it together. Our museum is a professional museum, and we're very proud of our museum staff. They're very well versed in the work that they do.
I'm Micah Walsh, and I'm the collections manager at the Center for Puppetry Arts. My role is primarily to care for the historic artifacts that are in the collection of the center's museum. So that consists of preserving the artifacts, making sure that they're rotated on and off exhibit, and I also maintain a database for all of our records. So our collection started with a large donation of puppets from Nancy Staub. She was a puppeteer, but she also is just a connoisseur of puppetry, and she traveled the world, collected a lot of puppets from different locations, and so her donation of puppetry when the center opened was our primary foundation for starting the collection, and then it's grown from there, and we continue to acquire new puppets. We have about 4,000 artifacts. Not all of those are in the museum on display, but they all are in our collection, in our permanent artifact collection. People donate things from all over the world, and they hear about the center and they know that we're a place that could be a home potentially for their puppetry. We do have an acquisitions committee. That committee is made up of people who are experts in the field of puppetry, and they determine what we typically choose to accept into our collection. We do have to be selective because we have limited space, and we want to make sure that we can preserve the objects we take.
When we added the 2015 edition, our collection increased dramatically through a donation by the Jim Henson legacy, the family of Jim Henson. So we have over 4,000 artifacts that we have about a quarter to a third out on display at any time, and so we're able to rotate those in and out. We're very fortunate that we have the largest collection of Jim Henson artifacts here at the Center for Puppetry Arts. more of those artifacts can be seen at the Smithsonian and Museum of Moving Image, and it's part of their whole art collection, but for us it's really a primary staple and anchor of our museum.
We have about 500 pieces in our collection, and with our dedicated gallery you can see pieces from his entire career.
Vince Anthony, when he had his idea about the Center for Puppetry Arts and was really having it noodle around in his head for a while, he happened to have this great friend, Jim Henson, that he knew from the festivals and knew from that lifestyle of these puppeteers getting to know each other and learning from each other. And he shared this idea with Jim, and Jim was, as always, Jim was just so supportive and optimistic, and wow, you should try it and you should go for it. And so Vince decided to put his efforts, put his marionette puppets up for a bit and put his efforts into creating this wonderful place, this magical place.
Jim Henson is known for the creation of the Muppets. He was a puppeteer all his life pretty much, and he was an innovator in the art of puppetry and known for Sesame Street as well, The Muppet Show, and then he branched out. He became a filmmaker. So he created films like Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal later in his career, and was always just kind of pushing the boundaries of puppetry. And he was also someone who brought a lot of other people into the puppetry community. He collaborated with a lot of artists and created the Jim Henson Company, which hired a lot of puppeteers. I think Jim Henson was considered most significant because of the innovations and pushing the boundaries of what puppetry looked like. A lot of people were familiar with traditional style of puppetry or going to a puppet show, but Jim Henson created puppets for television at a time when televisions were starting to be common in the American household. And he really thought about what puppetry could be, not necessarily what it was. Examples of that are innovating with the cameras. So they created a system where they had a monitor to face the puppeteer, and they would look at the monitor in order to see what the puppet looked like to the viewer through the camera lens. And they also made the cameras come in very close. So you weren't seeing a puppet on a stage, you were just seeing the puppet as the character talking to you through the television.
Jim Henson is an enormous influence on the world of puppetry. When I first started doing shows, I didn't really know what else to do other than create shows that were very similar to what Jim Henson was doing. My name is Jason Hines. I'm the artistic director here at the Center for Puppetry Arts. It takes up a lot of the consciousness of what puppetry is for a lot of people in America, because I mean, I certainly grew up watching Sesame Street. Muppet Show was still on when I was very young. All of Jim Henson's movies were just amazing, and his influence is just, it's just pervasive everywhere.
Jim Henson and his wife Jane came with Kermit and cut the ribbon here as we opened in 1978. So we have this auspicious start to the Center for Puppetry Arts with the blessing of Jim Henson himself and his family.
The shows that we have here that we perform on stage are all educational. They're tied to some part of the curriculum, either a science-based show or a social studies or a language arts. Theater is an educational experience for the students. They have a chance to see a different perspective on something when they come to see theater. I feel like every aspect of the center has an educational component. You just may not see it outwardly as educational.
We do a lot of planning, not just to develop the shows, but also to help coordinate with the museum and with education so that everything ties together here at the center. I mostly work in production. I work creating the shows, remounting the shows. First started here as the puppet builder. I was the resident puppet builder since 2000, and that was mostly what I did. When I first started building puppets, it wasn't because I wanted puppets for my shows. So for me, it was always about creating the shows themselves. So even when I came here as a puppet builder, I always wanted to create whole shows. So it wasn't too long that I was helping to write shows, act in shows, design shows, and so I've been doing that pretty consistently. Finding the people is one of the funnest things. We have a group of people that we've been working with for years that we don't have a resident company, but we do have puppeteers that we've been consistently working with, and it's always great to have them come and be different characters in different shows and see what they can do. If we need additional people or there's a special character, then we do auditions like you would in a normal play.
My name is Evan Hill Phillips. I am a performer and resident artist here at the Center for Puppetry Arts. This is my second year in this position, so essentially my sophomore year, fresh off the block, and it's been a fun time. I was given an opportunity to audition here for the center again for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and getting a chance to be a part of that production, work with so many talented performers and puppeteers, and just to experience puppetry on a scale that goes beyond like meow, 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 like just with full production value that I never thought was possible, really showed me just the possibilities of how this art form can be utilized as a legitimate career. So I'm grateful for my parents for just anytime they saw a puppet at the bookstore, just like, yeah, plop it in his room, he'll figure it out. And I did.
Collaborating with the team is one of my favorite parts of being here.
Jason has really found a lot of ways in a lot of the new productions that he's a part of too, to just make this art form less painful and more fun, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of joy in getting to bring to life someone's creation. And when it comes to the work of Jason Hines, I feel super grateful to be a part of just bringing to life his visions, for sure.
We just like to have fun, so like keeping the balance between all of the technical side of what it takes to put a show together and making sure that it's fun and educational for the kids. There is a trick to it because a lot of the puppet building and the design and the set design does get pretty technical. But if you start with the idea and the concept that you know is going to be fun, when you hand it off to the tech team, it all becomes like scheduling and who's going to build what, and then it all comes back together. And it's sort of like you do a painting, cut it apart into a puzzle, put the puzzle back together, and then share it with everybody.
Teamwork makes the dream work, essentially. Every puppet is sort of designed in their own way. There are puppets where it's just one person who's controlling them, their hand inside, moving around the rods. And so when it comes to interacting with a scene partner, it's essentially just what you're doing as a performer. You're listening, you're connecting, and you're engaging, just with all of this transferred up to here. But then there are also certain puppets that require multiple people on them to get them to perform the actions that they're meant to perform.
Figuring out what type of puppet the show is going to be is one of the biggest first steps. Like if we pick a title that we're going to adapt to the stage, figuring out what kind of puppet would be the most appropriate is probably the biggest decision early on, because every type of puppet has things that it does really well and then things that it can't do really well at all. There are string puppets or marionettes. There's hand and glove puppets, that's one. There are rod puppets, which is anything that has a stick to it. There are shadow puppets, it's where you have an object and you're not seeing the object, you're seeing the shadow. And then there are body puppets, which cover your entire body.
And then there are unique styles of puppetry. Stop motion puppetry. Early on, most people think of stop motion, they think of clay. And that's still true, they still use clay to create stop motion puppets. But they also use other techniques. When you get further in Jim Henson's career, he experimented a lot with animatronic puppetry.
Here at the center, we're not purists. We'll mix puppets, tiles, in different shows. I mean, we almost always have at least 3 different styles of puppets in every show. We'll have hand puppets talking to body puppets, transitioning into shadow puppets. It happens constantly here. My favorite things I get to hear quite often being in Atlanta is I get to talk to people who grew up here, and there's so many people that came here in school groups and people that came here as children who are now adults and they're bringing their children, and I get to talk to people who saw an adult show a million years ago and are wondering if we still do it, and I get to say, yes, we are, come back and see our new adult show.
We're very fortunate to have a strong family series where we do over 400 performances a year geared towards children. And so on any given day, you're going to have the place filled with children on school field trips. On the weekends, you're going to see families coming in to come experience the center. And so we're very proud of our family series and our children's entertainment, but we're also equally proud of our adult entertainment as well. Puppetry that is innovative and utilizes new technologies and new imaginative ways to tell stories. Those are the types of things that you will see on some of our evening shows because it really touches that more abstract telling of a story. And so adult puppetry is a really important part of what we do as well.
So this place has been a venue for a lot of really innovative, captivating, and legendary shows with so many great performers from across both the performance industry, local, and also the puppetry industry who have all performed in this space. When I was on the center's Wikipedia page, one of the highlight shows was The Ghastly Dreadfuls, which is an adult puppetry production, which is like also fascinating too. The fact that like puppetry is it's great for families, but it's also an art form that's great for everybody. And The Ghastly Dreadfuls is a great example of that, just in terms of like the theatricality, the performance style of it, the maturity, the way it resonates with audiences on a whole different level.
It's really important for the community to have this as a place to really explore something unusual and different than you can get anywhere else.
I think when Vince Anthony first envisioned the Center for Puppetry Arts, he was really focused on creating a special place for puppeteers to share their work and to learn from each other and to educate each other so that the art form, they could improve the art form. I'm not sure if he knew at that point how big of an impact he was going to have in the community.
I know I've definitely been influenced by Vince Anthony. Just being here in this amazing organization that was his concept. The Center for Puppetry Arts isn't just a theater, and that he never wanted it to just be a theater. He wanted it to be a center. He wanted it to be a focal point for puppetry in the country, and just being able to be here and do the work I've been able to do has been a real privilege, because there's some days that I need inspiration and I just get to walk upstairs to a premier puppet museum and look around, and I get, there's a whole staff of puppet enthusiasts that I get to talk to, and that's because they've all come here together because of Vince's vision.
So I think the goal is to have people be able to come with an open mind and really dig into what we do here and watch the shows, make their own puppet, walk through the museum and see all the different types of puppetry and walk out just kind of going, wow, I had no idea that it was all of that. That's the goal.